the threshold where wakefulness dissolves into dream. Close your eyes, breathe deeply. Right now, in this very moment, your consciousness exists in a space between two worlds. Every single night, you cross an invisible threshold that most people never truly understand. You drift from the waking world into a realm where reality bends, where time becomes fluid, where your mind creates entire universes from nothing but electrical impulses and chemical reactions. This journey happens to you every night, yet it remains one of the greatest mysteries of human existence. Have you ever wondered what actually happens inside your brain during those hours when your body lies still and your eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids? Have you considered that while your physical form rests, your mind is engaged in one of the most complex, most active processes it experiences in the entire day? Most people assume sleep is a time of rest, a pause button pressed on consciousness, but the truth is far more beautiful and far more intricate than that simple understanding. Your brain never truly stops working. It never enters a state of complete shutdown or silence. Instead, it transforms. It shifts gears. It changes the way it operates, reorganizing itself, processing information in ways that differ fundamentally from waking consciousness. During dreams, your brain is not resting. It is dancing. It is conducting a symphony of neural activity that involves billions of neurons firing in coordinated patterns, releasing chemicals in carefully orchestrated sequences, creating the vivid, strange, sometimes beautiful, sometimes bewildering experiences that fill your sleeping hours. Before we begin this journey into the depths of your sleeping mind, I invite you to subscribe to the Relaxing Science channel. Give this video a like and share in the comments below where you are listening from right now and what time it is in your location. Your presence here matters, and your participation helps us continue bringing you these explorations into the wonders of your own consciousness. Tonight, we are going to travel through the landscape of your dreaming brain. We will explore which areas of your mind become most active when you sleep. We will discover which regions step back and rest, allowing other parts to take the stage. We will trace the flow of neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers that paint the canvas of your dreams with color and emotion and sensation. We will understand how your brain creates the sense that dreams are real, how it generates images and sounds and feelings that seem absolutely authentic in the moment, even though you are lying motionless in darkness. This is not a clinical dissection of sleep science. This is an invitation to understand yourself more deeply, to recognize the extraordinary complexity that exists within your own skull, to appreciate the elegant systems that keep you alive and conscious and dreaming every single night. As you listen to these words, your brain is already beginning to prepare for sleep. The rhythm of this narration, the gentle pace, the careful spacing of ideas, all of this is designed to guide you toward the state we are about to explore. The threshold between wakefulness and sleep is not a sharp line. It is not a moment where you are awake one second and asleep the next. Instead, it is a gradual transition, a slow dissolving of one state of consciousness into another. Your brain does not flip a switch. It dims the lights in some regions while brightening others. It reduces the activity in areas responsible for logical thinking, while increasing activity in areas responsible for emotion and sensation. This transition takes time. It unfolds across minutes. And during this time, something remarkable happens to your consciousness itself. As you lie in bed, your body begins to cool slightly. Your muscles relax. Your breathing becomes deeper and more regular. Your heart rate slows. These physical changes are accompanied by changes in your brain's electrical activity. Your brain waves begin to slow down. The fast, busy beta waves that dominate your waking hours gradually give way to slower, more synchronized patterns. This is the beginning of the journey. This is where wakefulness starts to dissolve. You might experience what are called hypnagogic experiences during this transition. These are the strange dreamlike sensations that occur as you fall asleep. You might see flashes of color or geometric patterns. You might hear sounds that seem to come from outside, but actually originate within your own mind. You might feel a sensation of falling or floating or spinning. These are not hallucinations. They are the natural products of your brain's transition between states. They are the first whispers of the dream world entering your consciousness. The threshold is a space where logic begins to loosen its grip. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and executive function, starts to reduce its activity. Without this constant logical oversight, your mind becomes free to make strange associations, to follow illogical threads, to accept impossible scenarios as perfectly normal. This is why dreams can be so bizarre, so dreamlike. It is not a malfunction. It is a fundamental shift in how your brain is operating. As you sink deeper into sleep, the distinction between self and environment begins to blur. Your sense of where your body is in space becomes less precise. Your awareness of the physical room around you fades. You become less aware of the passage of time. Minutes might feel like hours, or hours might compress into what feels like minutes. This temporal distortion is one of the most distinctive features of dream consciousness, and it emerges directly from changes in how your brain is processing information during this threshold state. The threshold is also when your brain begins to release certain neurotransmitters while suppressing others. Norepinephrine, a chemical that keeps you alert and focused on the external world, begins to decline. Acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter associated with learning and memory, begins to increase in certain brain regions. Serotonin, which regulates mood and is involved in wakefulness, drops significantly. These chemical changes are not random. They are part of a carefully orchestrated biological process that has been refined by millions of years of evolution. This threshold state is both vulnerable and powerful. Your mind is open to suggestion during this time. Your defenses are lowered. Your critical thinking is diminished. This is why meditation and relaxation techniques are so effective when practiced as you fall asleep. Your mind is in a state of heightened receptivity. It is malleable. It is ready to accept new patterns, new thoughts, new ways of experiencing itself. Understanding this threshold, recognizing it as it happens, can give you a sense of agency over your own consciousness, even as you surrender to sleep. The threshold is where the magic begins. It is the doorway between worlds. On one side lies the rational, logical, externally focused consciousness of wakefulness. On the other side lies the fluid, associative, internally focused consciousness of dreams. This threshold is not a place most people spend much time consciously aware. It passes quickly, often without notice. But if you pay attention, if you remain aware as you fall asleep, you can experience this transition directly. You can feel your consciousness shifting, transforming, opening to new possibilities. As we prepare to move deeper into the dreaming brain, recognize that you are already beginning this journey. Your body may be still, but your mind is becoming more active in different ways. The stage is being set. The actors are taking their positions. Soon, the performance will begin. The brainstem's silent orchestra. The ancient foundation awakens deep within the very core of your brain. Beneath all the structures associated with thought and emotion and memory lies a region so ancient that it has remained virtually unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. This is the brainstem. It is the oldest part of your brain in evolutionary terms, and during sleep, it becomes one of the most crucial conductors of the entire dream experience. While many people imagine dreams as products of the higher brain regions, the truth is that the brainstem orchestrates much of what happens during sleep, particularly during the most vivid and memorable dreams. The brainstem is not large. It is a relatively small structure, roughly the size of your pinky finger, connecting your brain to your spinal cord. Yet, despite its modest size, it controls some of the most fundamental aspects of your existence. It regulates your breathing. It controls your heart rate. It manages your sleep-wake cycle. It produces many of the neurotransmitters that will shape your dream experience. When you sleep, the brainstem does not rest. Instead, it shifts into a different mode of operation, one that is optimized for the internal world rather than the external world. The brainstem contains several distinct regions, each with its own functions and characteristics. One of the most important of these regions is called the locus coeruleus. This is a small cluster of neurons that produces norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter that keeps you alert and focused during wakefulness. During REM sleep, the stage when most vivid dreams occur, the locus coeruleus becomes almost completely silent. This shutdown is crucial. Without it, your dreams would not feel real. You would maintain awareness that you were dreaming. You would retain your critical thinking and logical judgment. But because the locus coeruleus quiets down, your mind accepts the dream world as reality. Another critical region within the brainstem is the dorsal raphe nucleus. This area produces serotonin, a neurotransmitter that influences mood, emotion, and the regulation of other neurochemical systems. During wakefulness, the dorsal raphe nucleus fires regularly, maintaining steady levels of serotonin throughout your brain. But during REM sleep, this region also becomes quiet. The reduction in serotonin during dreams has profound effects. It alters your emotional processing, making emotions feel more intense and more immediate. It changes how you respond to situations. It contributes to the emotional landscape of dreams, where feelings often dominate logic. The brainstem also contains the pedunculopontine tegmentum, often abbreviated as PPT. This region is rich in acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter crucial for learning, memory, and attention. During REM sleep, the PPT becomes highly active, flooding the brain with acetylcholine. This neurochemical bath affects every other brain region, changing how they process information, how they create experiences, how they form memories. The high levels of acetylcholine during dreams make the dream experience feel vivid and real, even though the sensory input is coming entirely from within your own brain. One of the most fascinating aspects of the brainstem's role in dreaming involves a structure called the pons. The pons is part of the brainstem that sits at the junction between the brainstem and the midbrain. It contains neurons that are responsible for generating the rapid eye movements that characterize REM sleep. These eye movements are not random. They are coordinated with the content of your dreams. When you are dreaming of looking at something, your eyes move as if you are actually looking at it. The brainstem is directing these eye movements based on the visual activity happening in the higher brain regions. It is a conversation between ancient and modern brain, between the primitive core and the sophisticated cortex. The brainstem's role extends to the regulation of muscle tone as well. During REM sleep, the brainstem sends signals down the spinal cord that essentially paralyze your voluntary muscles. This paralysis is called REM atonia, and it serves a crucial protective function. Without it, you would act out your dreams. You would thrash around, potentially injuring yourself or others. The brainstem maintains this paralysis while simultaneously allowing your brain to generate vivid, active experiences. You might dream of running or fighting or dancing while your body lies completely still. This is one of the most remarkable paradoxes of sleep physiology, and it originates in the brainstem's control systems. The brainstem generates what neuroscientists call the activation synthesis hypothesis of dreaming. This hypothesis suggests that during REM sleep, the brainstem generates random bursts of neural activity. These bursts are then interpreted by the higher brain regions, which try to make sense of them by weaving them into narratives. The brainstem is not trying to create stories. It is simply firing in patterns that it fires during wakefulness, but without the sensory input from the external world. The cortex, however, is pattern-seeking. It cannot tolerate meaningless activation, so it creates meaning, it creates stories, it creates dreams. This process explains many of the strange characteristics of dreams. It explains why dreams often have illogical progressions, where one scene suddenly transforms into another without any clear transition. It explains why dreams often involve impossible scenarios that you accept as perfectly normal while dreaming. The brainstem is generating activation patterns that do not correspond to any real sensory input, and the cortex is doing its best to make sense of these patterns by creating narratives that connect them. The brainstem also contains the structures responsible for generating sleep spindles and K-complexes, brief bursts of brain activity that occur during non-REM sleep. These appear to serve protective functions, helping to maintain sleep in the face of external disturbances. They are generated in the brainstem and propagate throughout the brain, affecting how other regions process information. They seem to be involved in memory consolidation, in learning, in the integration of new information into existing knowledge structures. During the transition from wakefulness to sleep, the brainstem gradually shifts its neurotransmitter production. It is like an orchestra gradually changing its instrumentation, moving from one type of music to another. The changes are not abrupt. They are gradual and progressive. As these chemical changes accumulate, consciousness itself transforms. The way you perceive, the way you think, the way you experience reality all shift in response to the brainstem's orchestration. The brainstem's ancient wisdom is evident in how it manages the sleep-wake cycle. It contains neurons that respond to light, to the circadian rhythm, to the accumulation of adenosine, a chemical that builds up during wakefulness and signals the need for sleep. The brainstem integrates all of this information and decides when you should be awake and when you should sleep. When sleep time arrives, the brainstem initiates a cascade of changes that transforms your consciousness from waking to dreaming. The brainstem is not conscious in the way that higher brain regions are. It does not think or reason or reflect. It simply orchestrates, regulates, controls. Yet without it, dreams would not be possible. Without the brainstem's careful management of neurotransmitters and muscle tone and eye movements, without its ancient programs refined over millions of years, the entire dream experience would collapse. The brainstem is the silent foundation upon which all of your dreaming is built. Neurotransmitter symphony, chemistry of the sleeping mind. Your brain is not just a collection of neurons firing in patterns. It is a chemical universe. Trillions of molecules are constantly being released, reabsorbed, metabolized, and regenerated. During wakefulness, your brain maintains a particular chemical balance, one that supports alertness, focus, logical thinking, and awareness of the external world. But during sleep, and especially during dreams, this chemical balance shifts dramatically. Different molecules become prominent. Different receptors become active. The entire chemical environment of your brain transforms, and with this transformation comes the transformation of consciousness itself. Acetylcholine is one of the primary neurotransmitters involved in dreaming. During wakefulness, acetylcholine is present in moderate levels, helping you focus attention and form new memories. But during REM sleep, acetylcholine levels surge dramatically, particularly in the cortex, the outermost layer of your brain responsible for higher-order processing. This flood of acetylcholine has profound effects. It enhances the vividness of sensory experiences within dreams. It increases the emotional intensity of dream content. It strengthens the feeling that dreams are real, that they are actually happening to you. Acetylcholine works by binding to receptors on the surface of neurons, changing how those neurons respond to other signals. During dreams, with acetylcholine flooding the system, neurons become more responsive to each other's signals. They form stronger connections, at least temporarily. This increased responsiveness creates the vivid, interconnected, fluid quality of dream consciousness. Thoughts and images flow together. One idea leads to another through associations rather than logical connections. The dream unfolds like a river, following the path of least resistance, creating narratives that make sense within the dream world, even if they would seem bizarre when viewed from waking consciousness. Norepinephrine is another crucial player in the chemistry of sleep and dreaming. During wakefulness, norepinephrine keeps you alert. It heightens your awareness of external stimuli. It helps you focus attention. It supports logical thinking. It is the chemical of vigilance, of outward focus, of external engagement. But during REM sleep, norepinephrine levels drop dramatically. This reduction is not accidental. It is essential. Without the reduction of norepinephrine, you would remain aware during your dreams that you were dreaming. You would maintain your critical faculties. You would not be fooled by the dream world. The reduction of norepinephrine during dreams is one of the reasons why dreams feel so real. Without norepinephrine's vigilant monitoring, without its constant comparison of current experience against expected experience, your brain cannot maintain its usual skepticism. It cannot easily distinguish between imagined and perceived reality. It accepts the dream world as the actual world. This is why you can dream of flying or of being in impossible situations and accept these experiences completely. Norepinephrine, the chemical of skepticism, is nearly absent. Serotonin is a third major player in the neurochemistry of sleep and dreaming. During wakefulness, serotonin helps regulate mood, sleep-wake cycles, and many other functions. But during REM sleep, serotonin levels plummet. This reduction has significant effects on emotional processing and mood regulation. It may be why dreams often feel emotionally intense, why nightmares can feel terrifying, why positive dreams can feel euphoric. Without the moderating influence of serotonin, emotions experienced in dreams are not tempered by the rational evaluation that normally occurs during wakefulness. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with motivation, reward, and pleasure, also changes during sleep. Interestingly, dopamine levels are relatively low during REM sleep in some brain regions, but remain elevated in others. This creates an interesting situation where certain parts of your brain are motivated and engaged, while other parts are in a more relaxed state. This may contribute to the sometimes goal-directed, sometimes aimless quality of dreams. You might be pursuing something in a dream with great urgency, or you might simply be wandering through scenes without any particular purpose. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, commonly known as GABA, is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in your brain. During wakefulness, GABA helps prevent overexcitation, keeping neural activity within appropriate bounds. During sleep, particularly during non-REM sleep, GABA levels increase, helping to quiet neural activity and allow your brain to rest. But during REM sleep, GABA levels shift in ways that allow for the increased neural activity characteristic of vivid dreaming. The balance between excitation and inhibition changes, creating a different regime of neural operation. Glutamate is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter in your brain. During wakefulness, glutamate helps transmit signals, supports learning and memory, and enables the rapid processing of information. During sleep, glutamate levels decrease, allowing your brain to shift out of its waking mode of operation. But the reduction is not uniform across all brain regions. Some areas maintain higher glutamate levels even during REM sleep, allowing those regions to remain active and engaged in dream generation. The neuropeptide hypocretin, also called orexin, plays a crucial role in maintaining wakefulness. During the day, hypocretin levels are high, promoting alertness and wakefulness. As evening approaches and sleep time nears, hypocretin levels decline. During sleep, hypocretin levels remain low, helping to maintain sleep. The decline of hypocretin is one of the chemical signals that shifts your brain from waking mode to sleeping mode. Without adequate hypocretin, sleep becomes irresistible. This is why people with narcolepsy, a condition involving hypocretin deficiency, struggle with sudden, uncontrollable episodes of sleep. Melatonin is the hormone produced by the pineal gland that regulates your circadian rhythm and promotes sleep. As evening approaches, melatonin levels rise. This chemical signal tells your body and brain that night is coming, that sleep should be prepared for. Melatonin promotes the transition from wakefulness to sleep and helps maintain sleep throughout the night. But melatonin itself does not generate dreams. Rather, it sets the stage for sleep, creating the conditions within which the other neurochemical systems can initiate and maintain the dream state. The neurochemistry of dreaming is not a simple on-off system. It is a complex dance of multiple chemicals, each with its own effects, each interacting with the others, each playing a role in shaping the nature of consciousness during sleep. The reduction of some chemicals, the increase of others, the shift in the balance between excitation and inhibition, all of these changes combine to create the unique state of consciousness that is dreaming. Your brain is not simply resting during sleep. It is actively managing a complex chemistry, conducting an invisible symphony that only you can hear, in the form of the dreams you experience. The visual cortex ignites how your brain paints dreams. When you open your eyes in the morning, light enters your eyes and travels through a series of neural pathways to your visual cortex, the region at the back of your brain responsible for processing visual information. This is how you see the waking world. But during dreams, something remarkable happens. Your visual cortex becomes active without any input from your eyes. No light is entering. Your eyes are closed. Yet your visual cortex is firing intensely, generating images, creating entire visual worlds from pure neural activity. This is how your brain paints dreams. The visual cortex is organized in a remarkable way. It is divided into multiple regions, each specialized for processing different aspects of visual information. Some regions process color, others process motion. Still others process shape, orientation, depth, faces, places. During wakefulness, all of these regions work together, integrating information from your eyes to create a unified visual experience. But during dreams, these regions are not receiving input from your eyes. Instead, they are receiving input from other brain regions, particularly from regions involved in memory and emotion. They are painting pictures based on internal signals rather than external reality. The activation of the visual cortex during dreams is not random. It follows patterns. The most vivid, most detailed visual dreams occur during REM sleep, when the visual cortex is most active. During non-REM sleep, visual imagery is less vivid, less detailed, more abstract. This difference in visual cortex activity correlates directly with the subjective quality of the dreams people report. The more active the visual cortex, the more visually detailed and vivid the dream. This is not a coincidence. It reflects the fundamental principle that consciousness arises from neural activity. More activity in a particular region means more detailed processing in that domain. What is particularly fascinating is that the visual cortex during dreams is not uniformly active. Different regions show different levels of activation depending on the content of the dream. If you are dreaming of a face, regions of the visual cortex specialized for processing faces become particularly active. If you are dreaming of a landscape, regions specialized for processing spatial information become active. If you are dreaming of movement, regions specialized for processing motion become active. Your brain is not just randomly firing, it is selectively activating the neural regions most relevant to the dream content. The visual cortex receives input during dreams from the lateral geniculate nucleus, a structure in the thalamus that normally relays visual information from the eyes to the cortex. But during REM sleep, the lateral geniculate nucleus is receiving input not from the eyes, but from the brainstem. The brainstem is sending signals that resemble the signals that would come from the eyes if you were looking at something. But these signals are not based on actual visual input. They are generated internally. They are part of the brainstem's activation synthesis process. The lateral geniculate nucleus then relays these signals to the visual cortex, which interprets them as visual experiences. One of the most interesting aspects of visual dreaming is that your eyes move during REM sleep. These rapid eye movements are coordinated with the visual content of your dreams. When you are dreaming of looking at something, your eyes move as if you are actually looking at it. This is not a coincidence. The same regions of the brainstem that generate the dream content are also directing your eye movements. Your eyes are scanning the dream world, just as they would scan the real world if you were awake. The brainstem is maintaining consistency between the visual content and the eye movements, creating a unified, coherent experience, even though everything is happening internally. The visual cortex during dreams also receives input from regions associated with memory. The hippocampus, crucial for memory formation and recall, sends signals to the visual cortex during dreams. These signals help to incorporate memories into the visual content of dreams. This is why your dreams often contain elements from your recent experiences, from things you have seen or learned. The hippocampus is retrieving memories and feeding them into the visual cortex, which incorporates them into the visual imagery being generated. Your dreams are not entirely new creations. They are built from the materials of your own memory and experience. The visual cortex during dreams also receives input from regions associated with emotion. The amygdala, which processes emotions and assigns emotional significance to experiences, sends signals to the visual cortex during dreams. These signals influence what you see and how you perceive what you see. If you are in an emotional state, the visual cortex will be biased toward perceiving dream content that matches that emotional state. If you are anxious, you might see threatening things. If you are happy, you might see beautiful things. The emotional coloring of dreams arises partly from the influence of emotional processing regions on the visual cortex. The visual cortex is not the only region generating visual imagery during dreams, but it is the primary one. Other regions contribute as well. The prefrontal cortex, which normally provides logical evaluation and context, is quiet during REM sleep, allowing the visual cortex to generate images without the usual critical oversight. The parietal cortex, involved in spatial processing and body awareness, contributes to the sense of moving through dream spaces. The temporal cortex, involved in memory and object recognition, helps to identify the objects and people appearing in dreams. But the visual cortex is the stage upon which all of this activity is displayed, the canvas upon which the dream image is painted. The remarkable thing about visual dreaming is that it is entirely convincing. Your brain generates visual imagery that feels exactly like perception. It feels like you are seeing something real, not imagining something. This is because the visual cortex is being activated in essentially the same way during dreams as it is during wakefulness. The visual cortex does not distinguish between activation caused by incoming light and activation caused by internal neural signals. Both types of activation result in visual experience. The only difference is the source of the activation. During wakefulness, the source is your eyes. During dreams, the source is your brain's internal activity. The visual cortex during dreams is also more loosely coupled to reality than during wakefulness. During wakefulness, the visual cortex must maintain consistency with what is actually being perceived. But during dreams, there is no external reality to be consistent with. The visual cortex is free to generate whatever patterns of activity it generates. This freedom allows for the strange visual juxtapositions and impossible scenarios that characterize dreams. You can dream of being in two places at once, or of objects transforming into other objects, or of landscapes that violate the laws of physics. The visual cortex generates these images without constraint from external reality. The activation of the visual cortex during dreams is not constant throughout the night. It increases and decreases in cycles, corresponding to the cycles of REM sleep. Multiple times during the night, you experience periods of REM sleep, and during each of these periods, your visual cortex becomes active, generating dreams. Between these periods during non-REM sleep, your visual cortex is less active, and the visual imagery is less vivid. The rhythm of visual cortex activation is one of the most fundamental rhythms of sleep, a cycling between activity and relative quiet that continues throughout the night. Memory's midnight dance where past and present merge. Your memories are not stored in a single location in your brain. They are distributed across multiple regions, encoded in the patterns of connections between neurons, in the strength of synapses, in the organization of neural networks. But during sleep, and particularly during dreams, these scattered memories are brought together. They are woven into narratives. They are merged with emotions. They are incorporated into the visual and sensory imagery of dreams. This process is not accidental. It is a fundamental function of sleep, one of the primary reasons that sleep is so essential for human life and consciousness. The hippocampus is the primary structure involved in memory consolidation during sleep. This seahorse-shaped structure, located deep within the temporal lobe of your brain, is crucial for forming new memories during wakefulness. But during sleep, the hippocampus's role shifts. It becomes less focused on forming new memories and more focused on replaying and consolidating memories that were formed during the day. The hippocampus essentially replays the events of the day, sending this replay information to the cortex, where more permanent memories are stored. During REM sleep, the hippocampus is particularly active. It sends signals to the visual cortex, the auditory cortex, and other sensory regions, feeding memories into the ongoing dream. The memories that are replayed are not necessarily replayed in order or in their entirety. Instead, fragments of memories are pulled out and woven together. A memory from this morning might be combined with a memory from last week. A visual element from one experience might be paired with an emotional element from a completely different experience. This mixing and merging of memories is part of the creative process of dreaming. The integration of memories into dreams serves multiple functions. First, it allows your brain to consolidate memories, to transfer information from short-term to long-term storage. Second, it allows your brain to extract meaning from experiences, to identify patterns and relationships that might not be obvious in the moment. Third, It allows your brain to process emotional experiences, to integrate new information into existing emotional frameworks. Fourth, it allows your brain to prepare for future challenges by running simulations based on past experiences. The process of memory consolidation during sleep involves the strengthening of some synaptic connections and the weakening of others. During wakefulness, your brain forms many new connections as you learn and experience, but not all of these connections are equally important. Some represent crucial information that should be remembered. Others represent noise, details that are not essential. During sleep, your brain selectively strengthens the connections that encode important information while allowing less important connections to weaken. This is how learning becomes permanent. Memory consolidation during sleep is particularly important for procedural memories, the memories of how to do things. If you learn a new skill during the day, that skill improves overnight. You might practice a musical piece or a sport during the day and perform better the next morning, even though you have not practiced since. This improvement happens during sleep. Your brain is replaying the practice sessions, strengthening the neural networks that encode the skill, integrating the skill into your existing motor and cognitive systems. Dreams often contain elements of activities you have been learning, movements you have been practicing. The emotional content of memories also plays a crucial role in what gets consolidated during sleep. Memories associated with strong emotions are consolidated more thoroughly and more quickly than neutral memories. This makes evolutionary sense. Emotionally significant experiences are more important for survival and adaptation. They should be remembered more strongly, integrated more thoroughly into your understanding of the world. During dreams, emotionally significant memories are replayed more frequently, woven more extensively into dream narratives. The emotional intensity of dreams partly reflects the emotional significance of the memories being consolidated. The temporal cortex and other association areas of the cortex are the repositories of long-term memories. These regions contain distributed representations of all the knowledge you have accumulated over your lifetime. During sleep, the hippocampus sends replay signals to these regions, reactivating the neural patterns associated with specific memories. This reactivation strengthens the connections within these patterns, making the memories more permanent and more easily retrievable. The hippocampus is like a librarian, pulling books from the shelves and opening them to specific pages, allowing the cortex to read and strengthen them. One of the most interesting aspects of memory during sleep is that memories are not simply replayed in their original form. Instead, they are integrated with other memories. Connections are made between previously separate memories. New relationships are discovered. Patterns that were not obvious before become apparent. This integrative process is part of what makes sleep so important for learning and understanding. It is not just about consolidating individual memories. It is about integrating memories into a coherent, organized knowledge structure. The process of memory integration during sleep is thought to involve what neuroscientists call the systems consolidation of memories. During this process, memories are gradually transferred from the hippocampus, where they are initially stored, to the cortex, where they become part of your long-term knowledge base. This transfer does not happen instantly. It happens gradually over nights and weeks. Each night, the hippocampus replays memories, sending them to the cortex. Over time, these repeated activations strengthen the cortical representations, making them more stable and more independent of the hippocampus. Dreams themselves may serve as a window into this memory consolidation process. The strange, associative, non-linear quality of dreams may reflect the way memories are being shuffled and reorganized during sleep. The dream is not trying to tell a coherent story. Rather, it is a byproduct of the memory consolidation process, a visualization of the hippocampus and cortex exchanging information, replaying and reorganizing memories. From this perspective, the dream is not the point. The consolidation of memory is the point. The dream is simply what consciousness experiences as a result of the memory consolidation process. The integration of memories during sleep also involves the prefrontal cortex, which normally provides context and evaluates the significance of information. During REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex is quiet, but it becomes more active during non-REM sleep. During non-REM sleep, The prefrontal cortex may be evaluating and organizing memories, integrating them into your existing knowledge structures, considering their implications for future behavior. By the time you wake up, your memories have been processed, consolidated, organized, and integrated into your understanding of the world. This process of memory consolidation and integration during sleep is why sleep is so crucial for learning and memory. Without adequate sleep, memories are not consolidated. They remain fragile and easily forgotten. With adequate sleep, memories become permanent and integrated into your knowledge base. This is why students who study hard but do not sleep well often perform poorly on exams, while students who study adequately and sleep well perform better. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a necessity for learning and memory. The emotional landscape. Why dreams feel so real? When you wake from a vivid dream, the emotional residue often lingers. You might feel the fear from a nightmare, even as you recognize that you were dreaming. You might feel the joy from a pleasant dream, even as the dream fades from memory. You might feel anxiety or sadness or contentment based on the emotional content of the dream. This emotional intensity is one of the most distinctive features of dreams, and it arises from the unique way your brain processes emotion during sleep. The amygdala is the primary structure in your brain responsible for processing emotion and assigning emotional significance to experiences. During wakefulness, the amygdala works in concert with the prefrontal cortex, which provides context and rational evaluation. If you feel a flash of fear, the prefrontal cortex quickly assesses the situation and determines whether the fear is justified. This rational evaluation tempers your emotional response, but during REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex is largely quiet while the amygdala remains active. This means that emotional responses during dreams are not tempered by rational evaluation. Emotions feel more intense, more immediate, more real. The amygdala during dreams is receiving input from multiple sources. It receives input from the visual cortex based on the visual content of the dream. It receives input from memory regions based on the memories being consolidated. It receives input from other emotional processing regions. All of this input converges on the amygdala, which generates emotional responses. These emotional responses are not modulated by prefrontal input because the prefrontal cortex is quiet. The result is that emotions in dreams feel raw, unfiltered, intensely real. The emotional intensity of dreams is amplified by the neurochemical environment during REM sleep. Serotonin, which normally moderates emotional responses, is at low levels. Norepinephrine, which would normally alert you to be skeptical, is also at low levels. Without these moderating influences, emotional responses are not tempered. Additionally, acetylcholine, which is at high levels during REM sleep, enhances the vividness of all experiences, including emotional experiences. The emotional landscape of dreams is not just more intense, it is more vivid, more detailed, more pervasive. The content of emotions in dreams is influenced by the memories being consolidated and the visual imagery being generated. If you are dreaming of a threatening situation, the amygdala generates fear. If you are dreaming of a pleasant situation, the amygdala generates pleasure. But the emotional response is not necessarily proportional to the threat level or pleasure level of the dream scenario, because the prefrontal cortex is quiet, because rational evaluation is suspended. Because the emotional processing regions are operating in isolation, emotions can become disproportionately intense. A minor threat in a dream might generate overwhelming fear. A minor pleasure might generate overwhelming joy. One of the most interesting aspects of emotional processing during dreams is that emotions can persist even after you wake up. You might realize that you were dreaming, that the threatening situation was not real, yet you still feel afraid. Or you might realize that you were dreaming of someone you love, yet you still feel the warm emotions associated with that person. This persistence of emotion after waking reflects the fact that the emotional consolidation that occurs during dreams is real and lasting. The emotions you experience in dreams are not just temporary illusions, they have real neurological consequences. The emotional intensity of nightmares is particularly relevant here. Nightmares are dreams with intense negative emotional content, typically involving fear, anxiety, or distress. The intensity of nightmare emotions arises from the same neurochemical and neural mechanisms that make all dream emotions intense. The amygdala is highly active, generating strong fear responses. The prefrontal cortex is quiet, unable to provide rational perspective. The emotional response escalates unchecked. The dream feels absolutely real. You feel genuine fear, genuine distress. Upon waking, the fear may linger, even though you know the threat was not real. The emotional processing during dreams is not random. It is influenced by your emotional state during the day, by stressful events, by your overall psychological well-being. People who are stressed or anxious during the day are more likely to have intense emotional dreams, including nightmares. People who are content and relaxed are more likely to have positive emotional dreams. This connection between waking emotional state and dream emotional content reflects the continuous nature of psychological processing. Your brain does not turn off emotional processing during sleep. It continues to process emotional information, and this processing influences the content and intensity of dreams. The emotional processing during dreams also serves important functions. Dreams allow your brain to rehearse emotional responses to challenging situations. They allow your brain to process emotional trauma or stress. They allow your brain to integrate emotional experiences into your understanding of yourself and the world. In some ways, dreams are like emotional simulations, allowing your brain to practice dealing with emotions in a safe environment. The intense emotions of dreams are not a bug in the system. They are a feature, part of the way your brain processes and integrates emotional information. The limbic system, the set of brain structures involved in emotion and motivation, is particularly active during REM sleep. The limbic system includes the amygdala, the hippocampus, and several other structures. During REM sleep, these structures are highly interconnected and active. They are processing emotional information, consolidating emotional memories, generating emotional responses. The limbic system during REM sleep is essentially creating an emotional experience that is as real and as vivid as any waking emotional experience. The fact that the emotional experience is generated internally rather than triggered by external events does not make it less real or less impactful. The orbital prefrontal cortex, a region of the prefrontal cortex involved in emotional evaluation and decision-making, shows reduced activity during REM sleep. This reduction contributes to the emotional intensity of dreams by removing rational constraints on emotional responses. But during non-REM sleep, the orbital prefrontal cortex shows more activity. This may be when your brain is evaluating and organizing emotional information, integrating emotional experiences into your understanding of yourself. The cycling between REM and non-REM sleep may represent a cycling between emotional experience and emotional evaluation. The emotional landscape of dreams is shaped not just by current emotional processing, but by your emotional history. People who have experienced trauma often have intense emotional dreams related to that trauma. People who have positive emotional associations with certain people or places often have positive dreams about those people or places. Your emotional memories, stored in the amygdala and hippocampus and distributed throughout the cortex, influence the emotional content of your dreams. You are not just processing current emotions during dreams. You are processing the accumulated emotional weight of your entire life. The prefrontal cortex steps back. Logic takes a breath. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain most associated with what makes you human. It is responsible for rational thinking, for logical analysis, for planning, for self-awareness, for the ability to override impulses and consider consequences. It is the seat of your executive function, the command center that orchestrates your thoughts and behaviors. During wakefulness, the prefrontal cortex is highly active, constantly monitoring, evaluating, planning. But during REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex steps back. It reduces its activity dramatically. Logic takes a breath. And in this reduction of prefrontal activity lies much of what makes dreams so strange and so different from waking consciousness. The reduction of prefrontal activity during REM sleep is not a gradual decline. It is a significant shift, a marked decrease in the metabolic activity of these regions. Positron emission tomography, A neuroimaging technique that shows which brain regions are most active reveals that the prefrontal cortex is one of the least active regions during REM sleep. This is remarkable because the prefrontal cortex is one of the most active regions during wakefulness. The shift is dramatic and complete. This reduction of prefrontal activity has profound consequences for consciousness. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for your sense of self, for your ability to recognize yourself as a distinct entity separate from the world around you. It is responsible for your sense of agency, your feeling that you are in control of your actions. It is responsible for your ability to evaluate the plausibility of situations and to recognize when something is impossible or illogical. When the prefrontal cortex reduces its activity during REM sleep, all of these functions are diminished. Without the prefrontal cortex's critical oversight, you lose the ability to recognize dreams as dreams. You lose the skepticism that would normally cause you to question impossible situations. In a dream, you might be flying or breathing underwater or talking to people who are dead. In waking consciousness, you would immediately recognize these as impossible. But in the dream, without the prefrontal cortex's evaluation, you accept these scenarios as completely normal. The dream feels real because the part of your brain that would normally evaluate reality is quiet. The prefrontal cortex is also responsible for what neuroscientists call source monitoring, the ability to determine where information is coming from. During wakefulness, your prefrontal cortex constantly monitors whether information is coming from external perception or from internal imagination. But during REM sleep, with the prefrontal cortex quiet, this source monitoring breaks down. Information being generated internally by your visual cortex and other sensory regions feels like it is coming from external perception. You feel like you are actually seeing and hearing and experiencing things, when in fact everything is being generated internally. The reduction of prefrontal activity also affects your sense of self in dreams. During wakefulness, you have a stable sense of self, a continuous sense of being the same person from moment to moment. But during dreams, this sense of self becomes fluid. You might be yourself, but you might also be someone else. You might be observing yourself from outside your body. Your sense of identity might shift within the dream. The prefrontal cortex, which normally maintains a stable sense of self, is not providing this function during REM sleep. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, a region involved in working memory and planning, shows particularly reduced activity during REM sleep. This contributes to the poor memory of dreams and to the difficulty in maintaining a coherent narrative thread through dreams. During wakefulness, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex keeps multiple pieces of information in mind, maintains context, allows you to follow complex logical chains. During REM sleep, with this region quiet, you lose the ability to maintain a complex narrative. The dream unfolds moment to moment, with little sense of continuity or context. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex, a region involved in emotional evaluation and decision-making, also shows reduced activity during REM sleep. This contributes to the emotional intensity of dreams and to the poor judgment often displayed in dream scenarios. During wakefulness, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex evaluates emotional situations and helps you make appropriate decisions. During REM sleep, with this region quiet, you might make decisions in dreams that you would never make while awake. You might trust someone you would normally distrust. You might take risks you would normally avoid. The anterior cingulate cortex, a region involved in attention and conflict monitoring, also shows reduced activity during REM sleep. This region normally alerts you when there is a discrepancy between what you expect and what you perceive. During wakefulness, if something unexpected happens, the anterior cingulate cortex generates a signal that causes you to pay attention and evaluate the situation. During REM sleep, with this region quiet, you do not notice the logical inconsistencies and impossibilities that characterize dreams. The dream could contain multiple contradictions, but you would not notice them. The reduction of prefrontal activity during REM sleep is not complete. Some prefrontal regions remain somewhat active. The medial prefrontal cortex, involved in self-referential thinking and autobiographical memory, remains relatively active during REM sleep. This may be why dreams often involve yourself and your own experiences, even if the scenarios are strange and impossible. The medial prefrontal cortex is keeping you as the protagonist of the dream, maintaining a sense that the dream is about you, even as other prefrontal regions reduce their activity. During non-REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex shows more activity than during REM sleep. This may be when your brain is more engaged in rational processing, in evaluating and organizing the information being consolidated. The cycling between REM sleep, when the prefrontal cortex is quiet, and non-REM sleep, when the prefrontal cortex is more active, they represent a cycling between experiential and evaluative modes of consciousness. During REM, your brain experiences. During non-REM, your brain evaluates and organizes. The reduction of prefrontal activity during dreams is not a malfunction or a problem. It is a feature of the system. By stepping back, by reducing its critical oversight, the prefrontal cortex allows the rest of your brain to operate in a different mode. It allows the creative, associative, emotionally engaged parts of your brain to take the stage. It allows for the generation of novel combinations of ideas and images. It allows for the processing of emotional information without rational constraints. The stepping back of the prefrontal cortex is part of what makes dreaming possible. Theta waves and the gateway. The frequency of dreams. Your brain generates electrical activity continuously. Billions of neurons are firing, and each neuron firing generates a tiny electrical impulse. When you measure these electrical impulses using an electroencephalogram, or EEG, you see patterns of waves. These waves have different frequencies, measured in cycles per second or hertz. The frequency of these waves tells you something about the state of your brain, about how your neurons are organized and synchronized. During wakefulness, your brain generates fast waves. During sleep, your brain generates slower waves, and during dreams, your brain generates a particular type of slow wave called theta waves. Theta waves have a frequency of approximately 4 to 8 cycles per second. They are slower than the beta waves that dominate wakefulness, which have a frequency of 13 to 30 cycles per second. But they are faster than the delta waves that dominate deep, dreamless sleep, which have a frequency of less than 4 cycles per second. Theta waves seem to occupy a special place in the spectrum of brain activity. They are associated with learning, with memory consolidation, with states of deep focus and meditation. And they are particularly prominent during REM sleep, when dreams are most vivid. The generation of theta waves during dreams reflects the particular mode of neural organization occurring during REM sleep. The neurons in certain brain regions, particularly the hippocampus and the cortex, are firing in synchronized patterns. This synchronization creates the rhythmic waves that show up on an EEG. The theta rhythm is generated by a complex interaction between different brain regions, between the hippocampus and the cortex, between the brainstem and the forebrain. It is an emergent property of the system, arising from the coordinated activity of billions of neurons. Theta waves are particularly important in the hippocampus, the brain structure crucial for memory formation and consolidation. During REM sleep, theta waves in the hippocampus are particularly prominent. These theta waves seem to reflect the hippocampus's replaying of memories, its consolidation of information learned during the day. The theta rhythm in the hippocampus is thought to coordinate the consolidation of memories, helping to transfer information from the hippocampus to the cortex. In some sense, the theta rhythm is the rhythm of memory consolidation, the beat to which your memories are organized during sleep. The coupling between theta waves in the hippocampus and theta waves in the cortex is particularly important. During REM sleep, the hippocampus and the cortex generate theta waves that are synchronized with each other. This synchronization allows for communication between these regions, allows for the transfer of information from the hippocampus to the cortex. The theta rhythm is the timing signal that coordinates this transfer. Without proper theta synchronization, memory consolidation is impaired. Theta waves are also associated with certain states of consciousness during wakefulness. Meditation, particularly certain types of deep meditation, is associated with increased theta activity. States of deep focus and learning are associated with theta activity. Theta waves seem to be the signature of a particular mode of consciousness, one that is receptive, open, focused inward. This is interesting because it suggests that the state of consciousness during dreams, characterized by theta waves, shares some properties with meditative states. Both involve reduced external focus, increased internal focus, a particular kind of openness and receptivity. The relationship between theta waves and dreams is not perfectly understood, but research suggests that theta waves facilitate the kind of associative, non-linear thinking that characterizes dreams. The synchronized firing of neurons in theta rhythms may allow for the kind of loose associations between different memories and ideas that characterize dream thought. During waking consciousness, with faster beta waves, your thinking is more focused and linear. During theta waves, your thinking becomes more associative and free-flowing. Theta waves are generated by the interaction between different neurotransmitter systems. Acetylcholine, which is high during REM sleep, promotes theta activity. Norepinephrine, which is low during REM sleep, suppresses theta activity. Serotonin, which is also low during REM sleep, modulates theta activity. The neurochemical environment during REM sleep, with its particular balance of neurotransmitters, promotes the generation and maintenance of theta waves. The theta rhythm is thus both a consequence of the neurochemical state during REM sleep and a contributor to the particular kind of consciousness that characterizes dreams. The frequency of theta waves can vary somewhat, with different frequencies potentially corresponding to different aspects of dream experience. Slower theta frequencies, closer to 4 cycles per second, might be associated with more abstract, more emotional dream content. Faster theta frequencies, closer to 8 cycles per second, might be associated with more concrete, more visual dream content. The variations in theta frequency might reflect the dynamic changes in dream content as you move through different stages of REM sleep and different cycles of sleep throughout the night. Theta waves are not unique to REM sleep. They appear during other states of consciousness as well. They appear during wakefulness when you are engaged in learning or meditation. They appear during non-REM sleep, though less prominently than during REM sleep. But the theta waves during REM sleep have particular characteristics. They are particularly synchronized across different brain regions. They are particularly prominent. They seem to be particularly involved in the consolidation of memories and the generation of dreams. The role of theta waves in facilitating memory consolidation and dream generation has led some researchers to propose that theta waves are the gateway between conscious and unconscious processing. During theta states, information can move between conscious and unconscious systems. Memories can be transferred from conscious awareness into long-term storage. Emotional experiences can be processed and integrated. New associations between ideas can be formed. The theta rhythm is the frequency at which this transfer and integration occurs. The theta rhythm during dreams is not a static, unchanging pattern. It fluctuates and changes throughout REM sleep. There are periods of stronger theta activity and periods of weaker theta activity. These fluctuations may correspond to different phases of dream processing, to periods of more vivid dreaming and periods of less vivid dreaming. The theta rhythm is dynamic, responding to the ongoing processes of memory consolidation and dream generation. It is not simply a background hum, it is an active participant in the generation of consciousness during sleep. The study of theta waves during dreams has provided important insights into how the brain generates consciousness. It has shown that consciousness is not a single unified state, but rather emerges from particular patterns of neural activity. Different states of consciousness are characterized by different patterns of brain waves, different patterns of neural synchronization. By understanding these patterns, we gain insight into the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. The theta rhythm during dreams is one window into these patterns, one way of understanding how your brain generates the experience of dreaming. REM sleep's sacred cycle, the brain's most active state. REM stands for rapid eye movement, a term that describes one of the most distinctive features of this stage of sleep. During REM sleep, your eyes move rapidly back and forth beneath your closed eyelids. These are not slow, gentle movements. They are quick, darting movements, much like the eye movements you make when you are awake and looking around. The rapid eye movements are so characteristic of this stage of sleep that they gave the stage its name. But REM sleep is about much more than eye movements. It is the stage of sleep most associated with vivid, complex, emotionally intense dreams. REM sleep accounts for approximately 20 to 25% of your total sleep time during a night. This means that if you sleep for 8 hours, you spend roughly 90 minutes to 2 hours in REM sleep. But this time is not continuous. It is divided into multiple episodes, multiple cycles of REM sleep spread throughout the night. Early in the night, REM episodes are brief, lasting only a few minutes. As the night progresses, REM episodes become longer and longer. The longest and most intense REM episodes occur in the last few hours of sleep, just before you wake up in the morning. The cycling between REM and non-REM sleep is one of the most fundamental rhythms of sleep. Throughout the night, your brain cycles through different stages of sleep in a predictable pattern. You might start with light non-REM sleep, then progress to deeper non-REM sleep, then shift into REM sleep. The entire cycle, from light non-REM to deep non-REM to REM sleep, takes approximately 90 minutes. Then the cycle repeats. Throughout a typical night, you go through 4 to 6 complete cycles. During REM sleep, your brain is extraordinarily active. Multiple brain regions are firing intensely. Your metabolic rate is high. Your body temperature regulation is impaired, which is why you might feel hot or cold during REM sleep. Your heart rate increases. Your blood pressure increases. Your breathing becomes irregular and variable. All of these physiological changes reflect the intense neural activity occurring in your brain. Despite the fact that your body is paralyzed, your brain is in a state of heightened activation. The activation of the brain during REM sleep is not uniform across all regions. Some regions are more active during REM sleep than during wakefulness. The visual cortex, as we discussed earlier, is highly active during REM sleep. The motor cortex, which normally controls voluntary movement, is also active during REM sleep, even though your voluntary muscles are paralyzed. The limbic system, including the amygdala and other emotional processing regions, is highly active during REM sleep. The temporal cortex, involved in memory and object recognition, is active. The parietal cortex, involved in spatial processing, is active. But the prefrontal cortex, as we discussed earlier, is relatively quiet during REM sleep. The posterior cingulate cortex, involved in self-referential processing, shows variable activity. The precuneus, involved in self-awareness and autobiographical memory, shows reduced activity. This pattern of activation and deactivation creates a particular state of consciousness, one that is characterized by vivid sensory experiences, intense emotions, and a reduced sense of self and agency. The neurotransmitter profile during REM sleep is distinctive. Acetylcholine is at high levels, promoting vivid sensory experiences and memory consolidation. Norepinephrine is at very low levels, reducing the sense of skepticism and external focus. Serotonin is at low levels, altering emotional processing. Dopamine levels are variable, with some regions showing high levels and others showing low levels. This particular neurochemical environment is optimal for the generation of vivid dreams and the consolidation of memories. The purpose of REM sleep has been debated for many years. Early theories suggested that REM sleep was primarily about memory consolidation, about transferring information from short-term to long-term storage. More recent theories suggest that REM sleep serves multiple functions. It is important for memory consolidation, particularly for emotional memories and procedural memories. It is important for emotional processing and regulation. It is important for the development of the brain, particularly during infancy and childhood. It may also be important for creativity, for the generation of novel ideas and associations. The amount of REM sleep you need varies depending on your age, your health status, your psychological state, and other factors. Infants spend a remarkable proportion of their sleep time in REM sleep, sometimes up to 50% of total sleep. This high proportion of REM sleep in infants reflects the importance of REM sleep for brain development. As you age, the proportion of REM sleep gradually decreases. By adulthood, REM sleep accounts for about 20 to 25% of total sleep. In older age, the proportion of REM sleep may decrease further. REM sleep is particularly important for emotional processing and regulation. People who are stressed or anxious often show increased REM sleep. Their brains are working harder to process emotional information and consolidate emotional memories. People who are depressed often show disrupted REM sleep patterns. The disruption of normal REM sleep patterns is associated with mood disorders and other mental health conditions. This suggests that REM sleep is not a luxury, but a necessity for emotional well-being. The loss of REM sleep has significant consequences for cognitive and emotional functioning. Studies of REM sleep deprivation show that people who are deprived of REM sleep experience deterioration in mood, increased anxiety, difficulty concentrating, and impaired memory consolidation. Prolonged REM sleep deprivation can lead to serious psychological and physical health problems. This demonstrates that REM sleep is not optional. It is essential for maintaining normal cognitive and emotional functioning. The cycling of REM sleep throughout the night is controlled by multiple brain systems. The brainstem contains neurons that promote REM sleep and neurons that suppress REM sleep. The balance between these opposing systems determines when REM sleep occurs and how long it lasts. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, the part of your brain that controls your circadian rhythm, influences the timing of REM sleep. The hypothalamus, which regulates many aspects of your physiology, also influences REM sleep. The interaction between these multiple systems creates the predictable pattern of REM cycles that occurs throughout the night. The sacred quality of REM sleep lies not in any mystical property, but in its fundamental importance for your brain and your consciousness. REM sleep is when your brain is most engaged in processing emotional information, consolidating memories, generating novel associations. REM sleep is when you are most in touch with your own mind, with your own experiences, with the emotional and creative depths of your consciousness. REM sleep is the stage of sleep when dreams are most vivid and most memorable. It is the stage where your mind is most alive, even though your body is most still. The body paralyzed, the mind alive. A paradox explored. One of the most remarkable features of REM sleep is a paradox. Your body is completely paralyzed. Your voluntary muscles are essentially shut down. You cannot move your arms or legs. You cannot speak. You cannot change your position or respond to external stimuli with physical action. Yet at the same time, your mind is extraordinarily active. Your brain is generating vivid sensory experiences. Your eyes are moving rapidly. Your brain is processing information intensely. Your mind is alive and engaged. The body is paralyzed. The mind is alive. This paradox is one of the most distinctive and most mysterious features of REM sleep. The paralysis of the body during REM sleep is called REM atonia. It is generated by neurons in the brainstem, specifically in the ventral medulla, that send inhibitory signals down the spinal cord. These signals essentially turn off the neurons that control your voluntary muscles. The result is that you cannot move, even though your brain is generating motor commands. The motor cortex is active during REM sleep, firing as if you are moving. But the signals from the motor cortex never reach your muscles because they are blocked by the inhibitory signals from the brainstem. The paralysis of REM sleep serves an important protective function. If you were not paralyzed during REM sleep, you would act out your dreams. You would thrash around, potentially injuring yourself or others. Throughout human history, there have been occasional reports of people who lose the paralysis of REM sleep, a condition called REM behavior disorder. These people act out their dreams, sometimes violently. They might punch, kick, or jump out of bed. The fact that this is dangerous and abnormal demonstrates how important the paralysis is. The paralysis is not a problem, it is a solution. The fact that your motor cortex is active during REM sleep, even though your muscles are paralyzed, creates an interesting situation. Your brain is generating motor commands, but these commands are not reaching your muscles. Instead, they are being sent to other parts of your brain. The motor cortex is sending signals to the brainstem, which generates the rapid eye movements. The motor cortex is sending signals to other regions involved in the generation of dreams. The motor commands are still being generated and processed. They are just not being executed by your muscles. One interesting consequence of this is that the motor cortex might be learning during REM sleep. Your brain might be practicing movements, strengthening the neural networks involved in those movements, without actually performing the movements. This is consistent with the finding that learning of motor skills improves during sleep. When you practice a skill during the day and then sleep, the skill improves overnight. Part of this improvement might come from the motor cortex practicing the movements during REM sleep, strengthening the neural networks involved without the need for actual physical practice. The paralysis of REM sleep is not absolute. Your diaphragm, the muscle that controls breathing, is not fully paralyzed. You continue to breathe during REM sleep, though your breathing is often irregular and variable. Your eye muscles are also not paralyzed. Your eyes move rapidly during REM sleep, creating the rapid eye movements that give REM sleep its name. These exceptions to the paralysis suggest that the paralysis is selective. The brainstem is selectively paralyzing the muscles involved in gross movement, while allowing breathing and eye movement to continue. The eye movements during REM sleep are particularly interesting. They are not random. They are coordinated with the visual content of the dream. When you are dreaming of looking at something, your eyes move as if you are looking at it. The brainstem is directing these eye movements based on the visual activity happening in the cortex. The eyes are scanning the dream world just as they would scan the real world. This coordination between eye movements and visual content suggests that the brainstem is receiving feedback from the cortex about the visual content of the dream and adjusting the eye movements accordingly. The paradox of the paralyzed body and the active mind during REM sleep creates an interesting dissociation. Your mind believes that your body is moving, even though it is not. You might dream of running or fighting or dancing, and your brain is generating the motor commands as if you are actually performing these movements. But your body is not moving. This dissociation between intended movement and actual movement is one of the distinctive features of REM sleep consciousness. It is part of what makes dreams feel strange and unreal, even though they feel real at the time. The dissociation between mind and body during REM sleep might have implications for understanding lucid dreaming, a state in which you become aware that you are dreaming while still in the dream. In lucid dreams, people often report being able to control their dream movements and dream actions. Some people report being able to fly or perform impossible feats. The fact that the motor cortex is active during REM sleep, but the muscles are paralyzed, means that the motor commands generated during lucid dreams do not translate to actual movement. The person is free to generate any motor commands they want, without constraint from the paralysis. The experience of sleep paralysis, a condition in which a person becomes aware during the transition between sleep and wakefulness, and finds themselves unable to move, is a direct experience of the paralysis of REM sleep. During sleep paralysis, the person is conscious, but the paralysis has not yet lifted. The experience can be frightening as the person is aware of being unable to move, but it is a temporary condition, usually lasting only a few seconds to a few minutes. As consciousness fully returns, the paralysis lifts and the person regains the ability to move. The paralysis of REM sleep raises interesting questions about the nature of agency and control. Your brain is generating motor commands, but your muscles are not responding. From the perspective of your conscious mind, you are moving, you are acting, you are engaging with the world. But from an objective perspective, your body is completely still. This suggests that the sense of agency, the feeling that you are in control of your actions, is not dependent on your muscles actually moving. It is dependent on your brain generating motor commands. As long as your brain is generating motor commands, you feel like you are acting, even if your body is paralyzed. The paradox of the paralyzed body and the active mind during REM sleep is a reminder that consciousness is not a unitary phenomenon. Different aspects of consciousness can be dissociated from each other. You can have sensory experiences without external sensory input. You can have motor experiences without actual movement. You can have a sense of self and agency without external awareness or the ability to respond to the external world. Understanding these dissociations helps us understand the fundamental nature of consciousness and how it arises from neural activity. Dreams as neural cleaning. How your brain organizes itself. Your brain accumulates a tremendous amount of information during wakefulness. You perceive thousands of visual scenes, hear countless sounds, have numerous thoughts and experiences. All of this information must be processed, organized, and integrated into your existing knowledge and memory structures. This is a massive computational task. If your brain tried to do all of this processing during wakefulness, it would interfere with your ability to function, to perceive, to respond to the present moment. Instead, your brain defers much of this processing to sleep. Sleep, and particularly the dream stages of sleep, is when your brain organizes and consolidates the information accumulated during wakefulness. The process of memory consolidation during sleep involves the reorganization of neural connections. During wakefulness, your brain forms new connections between neurons as you learn and experience. But not all of these connections are equally important. Some encode crucial information that should be remembered. Others encode noise, irrelevant details that should be discarded. During sleep, your brain selectively strengthens the connections that encode important information while allowing less important connections to weaken. This selective strengthening and weakening of connections is part of the process of consolidating memories. The process of consolidation also involves the integration of new information into existing knowledge structures. The information you learn today is integrated with information you learned in the past. New associations are made between previously separate pieces of knowledge. Patterns are extracted from the details. The specific memories of individual experiences are abstracted into general knowledge. This process of integration and abstraction is crucial for learning and understanding. Without it, you would have vast collections of isolated memories, but little ability to use that knowledge flexibly. The metaphor of neural cleaning captures something important about what happens during sleep. Just as your body produces waste products that must be eliminated, your brain produces waste products during its normal operation. One of these waste products is a protein called beta amyloid. Beta amyloid accumulates in your brain during wakefulness and is associated with the development of Alzheimer's disease if it accumulates excessively. During sleep, particularly during deep non-REM sleep, your brain's glial cells become more active, and cerebrospinal fluid flows through your brain more actively. This increased flow of cerebrospinal fluid helps to flush out accumulated waste products, including beta amyloid. The process of neural cleaning during sleep involves the reorganization not just of memories but of the entire structure of neural networks. During wakefulness, your neural networks are in a state of constant flux, forming new connections, strengthening some existing connections, weakening others. This plasticity, this ability to change, is crucial for learning. But it also means that your neural networks are not optimally organized for efficient function. During sleep, your brain reorganizes these networks, pruning away less important connections, strengthening important ones, optimizing the structure of the networks for efficient function. The process of pruning during sleep is particularly important during childhood and adolescence, when the brain is still developing. During these developmental periods, the brain forms far more connections than it will ultimately need. The excess connections are then pruned away during sleep. This pruning is not random, it is selective. The connections that are pruned are often those that have not been used recently. The connections that are preserved are those that have been used frequently, those that encode important information. This selective pruning is crucial for normal brain development. The process of reorganization during sleep extends to the reorganization of emotional memories. Emotional memories are consolidated during sleep, but the emotional intensity is often reduced. You might remember a stressful event, but the emotional intensity of the memory diminishes over time, with sleep playing an important role in this reduction. The amygdala, which generates emotional responses, becomes less reactive to the memory. The prefrontal cortex develops stronger connections that can modulate the emotional response. The result is that the memory is preserved, but the emotional intensity is reduced. This process is important for emotional healing and for moving beyond traumatic experiences. The process of reorganization during sleep also involves the extraction of rules and patterns from specific experiences. During wakefulness, you have specific experiences. You see specific objects, meet specific people, have specific conversations. During sleep, your brain extracts the common features from these specific experiences, developing abstract knowledge. You develop knowledge about the general properties of objects, about social rules, about the structure of the world. This abstraction process allows you to use your knowledge flexibly in novel situations, to recognize patterns in new experiences, to apply knowledge learned in one context to different contexts. The process of neural cleaning and reorganization during sleep is not uniform across all brain regions. Different regions undergo different types of processing during sleep. The hippocampus, crucial for memory formation, is particularly active during REM sleep, replaying memories and consolidating them. The cortex, which stores long-term knowledge, receives these replayed memories and strengthens the connections that encode them. The cerebellum, involved in motor learning, consolidates motor skills learned during the day. Different brain systems are engaged in their own specialized forms of processing and consolidation. The process of consolidation and reorganization during sleep is supported by the particular neurochemical environment during sleep. Acetylcholine, high during REM sleep, promotes the formation of new connections and the integration of information. Norepinephrine, low during REM sleep, reduces the influence of external stimuli, allowing the brain to focus on internal processing. The reduced levels of serotonin during REM sleep may facilitate the exploration of novel associations and combinations. The neurochemical environment during sleep is optimized for the kind of processing and reorganization that occurs during sleep. The failure of neural cleaning and reorganization during sleep has been linked to various neurological and psychiatric disorders. People with sleep disorders, including insomnia and sleep apnea, have increased risk of cognitive decline and dementia. People with psychiatric disorders often have disrupted sleep. The accumulation of beta amyloid in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease is associated with poor sleep. These associations suggest that the neural cleaning and reorganization that occurs during sleep is crucial for maintaining brain health and function. The process of neural cleaning and reorganization during sleep is continuous throughout your life. Every night, your brain goes through this process of consolidating memories, pruning unnecessary connections, extracting patterns, integrating new information. This continuous process is part of what keeps your brain healthy, what allows you to learn and grow throughout your life. Without adequate sleep, this process is disrupted. Memories are not consolidated, neural networks are not optimized, waste products accumulate. The result is impaired cognition, impaired emotional regulation, and increased risk of neurological disease. Awakening into stillness. The gift of understanding your sleeping mind. As we reach the end of this journey through the landscape of your dreaming brain, as we prepare to emerge from the depths of sleep science and return to the surface of waking consciousness, it is worth pausing to reflect on what we have discovered. We have traveled through the ancient brainstem, the foundation of your sleep and dreams. We have explored the neurochemistry of sleep, the symphony of molecules that transforms your consciousness. We have traced the activation and deactivation of different brain regions, the dance of neural activity that creates the experience of dreaming. We have understood the paradoxes and mysteries of sleep, the ways that your brain can be simultaneously paralyzed and active, rational and dreamlike, isolated from the world, yet vivid and real. But understanding the neuroscience of dreams is not just an intellectual exercise. It is an invitation to a different relationship with your own mind, with your own consciousness, with the mysterious processes that occur during the hours when you are asleep. When you understand that your brain is not resting during sleep, but rather engaged in some of the most important work it does, you can approach sleep with greater respect and appreciation. When you understand that dreams are not meaningless noise, but rather the product of crucial processes of memory consolidation and emotional integration, you can approach your dreams with greater curiosity and openness. The knowledge that your prefrontal cortex steps back during dreams, that your rational, critical faculties are suspended, can help you understand why dreams feel so strange and so real. It can help you recognize that the strange logic of dreams is not a malfunction, but a feature, a consequence of the particular mode of neural operation during REM sleep. It can help you approach your dreams with less judgment, with more acceptance. Your dreams are not trying to be logical. They are trying to consolidate memories, process emotions, integrate experiences. The apparent strangeness is part of what allows them to do this work. The knowledge that your amygdala is highly active during dreams, that emotional processing is intense and unconstrained by rational evaluation, can help you understand the emotional intensity of dreams. If you have a nightmare, you can recognize that the fear you feel is real, that your brain is genuinely generating intense emotional responses, but you can also recognize that the fear is not based on an actual external threat. Understanding this can help you process the nightmare, to integrate the emotional experience, to move beyond it. The nightmare is not meaningless. It is your brain processing something, working through something. By understanding this, you can work with the process rather than against it. The knowledge that your visual cortex is painting pictures during dreams, that the vivid sensory experiences of dreams are generated entirely by your brain, can help you appreciate the creativity and power of your own mind. Your brain is creating entire worlds, complete with visual scenes, sounds, sensations, all generated from pure neural activity. This is an extraordinary demonstration of your brain's power. The same brain that perceives the external world during wakefulness is capable of generating complete internal worlds during sleep. Appreciating this power can deepen your respect for your own mind. The knowledge that your brain is consolidating memories during sleep, integrating new information, extracting patterns and rules, can help you recognize the importance of sleep for learning and understanding. If you are learning something new, if you are trying to master a skill, sleep is not a distraction from learning. It is part of the learning process. Your brain continues to work on the material you have learned, consolidating it, integrating it, making it permanent. Respecting the importance of sleep for learning means getting adequate sleep while you are learning, not sacrificing sleep to study longer. The knowledge that your brain is undergoing neural cleaning during sleep, pruning unnecessary connections, eliminating waste products, can help you understand why sleep is so important for maintaining brain health. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is when your brain maintains itself, when it cleans itself, when it optimizes itself for continued function. Adequate sleep is one of the most important things you can do for your long-term brain health and cognitive function. The journey through your dreaming brain is also an invitation to greater awareness of your own dreams. Many people pay little attention to their dreams, forgetting them quickly upon waking. But your dreams are a window into your own mind, into the processes that are occurring beneath the surface of consciousness. By paying attention to your dreams, by remembering them, by reflecting on them, you can gain insight into your own emotional processing, your own concerns, your own creative potential. Your dreams are not trying to tell you something in the form of a message or a prophecy, but they do reflect what your brain is working on, what your mind is processing. One way to remember more dreams is to set the intention to remember them before you fall asleep. Tell yourself that you will remember your dreams. Keep a notebook by your bed and write down your dreams immediately upon waking before the memory fades. The more attention you pay to your dreams, the more you remember them, the more you notice about them. Over time, you may develop the ability to recognize that you are dreaming while you are dreaming, a state known as lucid dreaming. In lucid dreams, you have the unusual opportunity to explore your own mind with conscious awareness, to observe your brain's creativity and power directly. Understanding your dreaming brain also means understanding that sleep is a time of vulnerability. Your brain is in a different mode during sleep, less able to process external threats, less able to respond to danger. This is why sleep security is important. Creating a safe, comfortable sleeping environment is important, not just for comfort, but for allowing your brain to fully engage in the processes of sleep and dreaming. A room that is dark, quiet, and cool is optimal for sleep. Reducing exposure to screens and bright light before sleep helps your brain transition into sleep mode. Maintaining a consistent sleep schedule helps your circadian rhythm, helps your brain know when to prepare for sleep. Understanding your dreaming brain also means recognizing the importance of sleep for emotional well-being. Your brain processes emotions during sleep, consolidates emotional memories, regulates emotional responses. Without adequate sleep, your emotional regulation becomes impaired. You become more reactive, more irritable, less able to cope with stress. Getting adequate sleep is one of the most important things you can do for your emotional well-being. If you are struggling with mood or emotional regulation, improving your sleep should be one of your priorities. The journey through your dreaming brain also invites a kind of awe and wonder at the mystery of consciousness itself. We have explored many aspects of how your brain generates dreams, but the fundamental mystery remains. How does neural activity give rise to subjective experience? How does the firing of neurons create the felt sense of seeing, of hearing, of feeling? Why is there something it is like to be you, something it is like to experience consciousness? Science can tell us much about the neural correlates of consciousness, about which brain regions are active during different states. But the fundamental question of how consciousness arises from matter remains mysterious and profound. As you prepare to sleep tonight, as you drift across the threshold from wakefulness into dream, you can carry with you this knowledge of your own brain. You can appreciate the extraordinary complexity of the processes that will occur during your sleep. You can recognize that your brain is not resting, but rather engaged in some of the most important work it does. You can approach your dreams with curiosity and openness, recognizing them as windows into your own mind. You can trust your brain to do the work it needs to do, to consolidate memories, to process emotions, to integrate experiences, to maintain itself. Thank you for joining me on this journey through your dreaming mind. If this exploration has brought you greater understanding of yourself, greater appreciation for the mystery of consciousness, greater respect for the importance of sleep, I would deeply appreciate a like and a subscription to Relaxing Science. Your support helps us continue bringing you these explorations into the wonders of your own consciousness. Also, let us know in the comments if you would like to see more content like this, if there are other aspects of consciousness and sleep that you would like to explore together. As you close your eyes tonight and drift into sleep, remember that you are embarking on an extraordinary journey. Your brain is about to engage in processes as complex and as wondrous as any conscious thought you have during wakefulness. Your mind is about to create worlds, to process emotions, to consolidate memories. You are about to dream, and in those dreams, in those hours of sleep, your brain will be doing some of its most important work. Sleep well, dream vividly, and trust in the extraordinary intelligence and power of your own mind. Total